So I'm knitting this border and attaching it as I knit, so that when I'm finished knitting it, I don't have to sew it on. And it has a nice spring to it, and it's not too tight. And as you can see, it's got a nice lacy sort of pattern to it. This is seed stitch. This is an entrelac that I've done. So what we're going to do to make sure we don't have to sew anything is, we've got a ball of wool and we've got these holes. Now what I like to do on my main work is on the edges I always slip the first stitch. I don't knit it, I don't purl it, I slip it. So then I end up with this nice loopy chain across the edge. And I've also done this on the border, so it makes a nice soft edge and it finishes it off quite nicely, I think. Right, so we're going to take advantage of these little holes in this nice chain, and we're going to put our needle in as if to knit. And this is the front side of the work I'm working from, the right side, and I pull that stitch through. Now that would make a stitch, and that's not what I want to do. I want to keep the border even all the way up the edge, and so I take that stitch that I've just made and I pull it and pull it and pull it and make it about 12 inches long. So there we go. And then I figure out which one of the two threads is going to be my feed for the next row. So what you want is, you want the one that's coming off of this stitch here and coming through there, and you can tell because it doesn't give anything, whereas the one coming from the ball of yarn, you can keep pulling it. That one, we don't want to work with that one, we want to work with this one, this nice tight one. So oops, that got caught. Let's turn this around. So I'm going to turn my work now. Right, now I was saying I always slip the first stitch, but this is the exception to that rule. I don't slip the first stitch because I want it connected to the work, so I will only slip on an outside edge. So this very first stitch, because this is seed stitch, I'm going to purl it and then knit it. So I'll continue that, knit one, purl one across the row until I get to the end. So you can do this on any kind of border. You don't actually have to do a seed stitch border, but this is just what I'm knitting with at the moment. So in the last stitch, and then I can turn my work. Now I'll show you what I've got so far then. What I have is, oops, oh, yeah. So what I have is I now have a loop. Let's pull this shorter. So if I've got too much yarn in the loop, I can pull it, and I have this loop. It goes through the main body of the work, and it comes out and goes to the ball of wool. So I'm always making sure that this one connected to these stitches is the active piece. So this is the edge of my work, so I'm going to slip the first stitch. Oh, let's get that round. Slip the first stitch as if to purl, and then purl the next stitch, knit the next one, and continue in seed stitch all the way to the end. almost there. A few more stitches, and I'll show you what to do with the loop when you get back to the main body of your work. And then purl this last stitch. Okay, so what we've now got is we've worked 2 rows, and we have this loop, and it goes through the main body of the work, but it connects to the border. So what you want to do is pull that from the ball of yarn. You want to pull it towards your ball of yarn, and you're making the loop smaller and smaller until it disappears. And there you've got 2 rows, and you're not going to have to sew any of that on. So in the next row, you repeat again. You find these little holes that you've got. I've got two legs that so it's not that hole, it's the one up. Insert my needle as if to knit, pull it through, and then I make a big loop. And then I'll go and turn my work and do 2 rows, and then make the loop disappear. And I'll do that all the way up until I get to the end of my shawl that I'm knitting, and then I won't have to stitch this on. And the nice thing about this is it's got a lot of give to it. You know, when I'm sewing things on, sometimes I sew it on too tight or too loose, and it buckles and it ripples. But with this method, you don't have any buckling or any rippling. It's all just nice and smooth, and it has a lot of nice give and play to it, so it makes it a very soft edge. So I hope this helps someone and inspires you to knit something nice. Tell me in the comments below what you've done with it, if you found it helpful or not, and I'll see you again.